Welcome to Project Chatter, the podcast where PPM experts from various sectors talk about the latest trends. Listen to Val and Dale as they talk about tried and tested best practices and share their unfiltered thoughts about the industry. Whether you're here to learn how to progress your career, improve your project control skills, or just want to hear an Aussie and South African rant about projects, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Project Chatter podcast with your hosts, Dale Fung and Val Matthews.
In this episode, we speak to Lisa Silander. Lisa is a global practice and UK technical lead for project controls at AtkinsRéalis, bringing 30 years of experience leading planning and project controls teams across aviation, rail, water, manufacturing, and nuclear. Lisa has shaped delivery on some of the UK's most demanding capital programs, including Heathrow Terminal 5, Heathrow Q6, the Heathrow Expansion Project, Thames Water AMP5, and Yorkshire Water AMP7.
Her track record spans multi-billion-pound projects where commercial discipline, schedule integrity, and clarity of reporting are non-negotiable. She's known for introducing new ways of working, embedding digital tooling that genuinely shifts client outcomes, and building high-performing teams that scale across complex regulatory environments. It was fascinating, Val, to have Lisa on. She's got a decorated career. She's done plenty in her time, and she unpacked it with us. What are some of the highlights that stood out for you?
No, it was great. It's good to hear and have a bit of a switch from AI for once, but also talk about someone's daily habits and what inspires them. Even being a woman in our industry is a good perspective that we sometimes don't hear from others. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the fact that although Lisa has achieved the heights she has and all the accolades has come her way, she still maintains that sense of humility and humor and, has that lighthearted side to her. So while she's extremely driven, you asked her about grit as well and determination. I think that human side comes through, and I love the habits you asked her about, her daily habits. So listeners, listen out for that one. But look, we won't spoil it too much. We'll leave it there. As we say, keep listening, keep liking, and keep paying it forward.
Hello, project people. Welcome back to a brand new episode of your favorite project podcast. If that's the case, project controls being the flavor of the week. Dale, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks, Val. I'm loving these neon lights that you ordered for us. They give us this purple hue. For those that aren't watching, go on YouTube, check them out.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting an actual tan from mine. I think it's too bright, but we'll see what happens by the end of the podcast. It's good to see you, mate. We'll shout out for Martin not being here again. I don't know where he is, but good luck to him. Let's introduce our guest, because this is a nice one. We get to chill and relax and hear career stories, because I love, and we haven't had one for a while, but I love hearing how people get into these professions, because it's never one way. And there's always an interesting origin story, as you know, Dale. Even our origin stories in project controls, it was pretty interesting. But Lisa Silander, it's so good to have you all the way over from UK. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
It's good. Nice to meet you too. Before we press record, we talked about all the accolades and awards you've won, so we'll get into that at some point, because you had a long history in one of my favorite topics, which is project controls, which isn't as popular as you would think in Australia, which it should be, given where our projects are at. But the origin story is always an interesting one. It's a nice, easy one for you, Lisa. We'll warm you up to these questions. How did you specifically get into project controls?
So I started off, I got to go back to university way back when. And I did a year of civil engineering, and I didn't really like it. So I looked around for another course that I thought might be more interesting, and found construction management. And in construction management, I did some scheduling, and I did a bit of cost, and I did a bit of risk, and I did a bit of everything, as you can imagine. And randomly, at the end of my degree, I was dating a civil engineer, and he'd applied to a company called Foster Wheeler for a civil engineering graduate job. And I saw one for a cost and planning engineer. And I was like, oh, I could do that. I did that on my course. For my final project, I had to do like a network diagram that was the size of, I was about, I don't know, 3 meters long, for a school for performing arts. And I really liked it. Call me a bit of a geek, but I really enjoyed it. So I thought, oh, that would be good as a career. So yeah, I got the graduate job at Foster Wheeler, which was, they're like an oil and gas company. For those that haven't heard of them, they do not exist anymore. But yeah, that's how I started.
Wow. And what was specifically, because it's unboxing this a little bit, but what specifically about planning, controls, cost, risk was exciting? Because I'm really curious. Is it the analytics part? Is it spreadsheets that you love, Lisa? Like what is it that really got you going?
That would be sad. Sorry to those that love spreadsheets. But so actually, I did start off my career in planning, and to me, it was like a massive jigsaw puzzle. So trying to bring all the pieces together of a massive jigsaw puzzle. I love the jigsaw puzzle, still do. And that, then my career just sort of progressed from planning into integrating cost into the schedules, into bringing it all into one piece, and leading to sort of project controls, which is obviously what I've done over the years. So yeah, I like the bringing all that complexity together, breaking down those sort of silos. I love like facilitating a workshop that kind of makes everyone think about what they've got to deliver, bring it all together, understand why they can't just do that. They have to speak to someone else. And I like all that kind of bringing it all together.
Yeah, brilliant. Was it a hard career choice? Because was there other options you were thinking about other than project controls? Because it sounds like your problem solving is like a pretty common thread actually for project controls, people who get into this space. But for yourself, was there a few options on the table and this one just happened to be the one that got you the job?
Yeah, I applied for construction management roles. I was quite interested in site safety as well. I did my dissertation on it, I applied for different roles. I did get shortlisted for a site safety one, but then this one came up first, and I thought, do you know what? Actually, that sounds quite interesting. I'll go that route, and that's how I ended up there.
Brilliant. Now you've got a pretty long, prestigious career, I am told, but pretty well known in the other side of the world. And you work for a company called AtkinsRéalis. How did you end up there? Because you've been there for a very long time. Obviously, they've done well to keep you, Lisa, because I know resources are scarce, especially skilled resources that can solve problems like yourself. How did they snag you? What was the first date like?
Actually, well, do you know what the first date? What happened was, while I was with Foster Wheeler, they sent me on an assignment to Singapore, and I loved working abroad. I was like, this is brilliant. I want to do more of this. So I was there for a year. I was really lucky to get that gig. It was site safety, weirdly, even though it was part of my graduate trainings rotation. And I got back and I kept saying, please send me abroad again. Please send me abroad again. And they didn't. So I went looking for my own job. And I got a job with Faithful and Gould, as they were called at the time. I'd never heard of them, I have to say. And it was in America, and they offered me the job, and I thought, well, why not? Let's give it a go. Let's see how that goes. Didn't know anyone in the business, didn't know anyone in America. So yeah, that was put myself in an uncomfortable position, but yeah, just wanted to try something new, somewhere new, and yeah. And that's where it all began. And I honestly, I never thought I'd still be with them 25 years later, I have to say. I had to stay with them for 2 years because they paid for my visa for going over there. So I was like, right, I'll definitely stay 2 years. I can do 2 years in America. And yeah, I actually met my husband out in America. He's British, and had to make a decision sort of like 3 years in. He had to come back to the UK for his job, and I had to decide, do I stay in America or do I come back for him? So I came back, and Faithful and Gould didn't guarantee me a job back here. So I interviewed with loads of different businesses, got offers from all of them, which was nice. And then Faithful and Gould said, no, we want to keep you. So that was nice. So I stayed with them when I came back to the UK as well. Basically, I just wanted to go and work on Terminal 5 when I came back to the UK. So anyone that would offer me a job on Terminal 5 that's where it was at.
Yeah, that's awesome, Lisa. It's testament to, how good you are and your good work if they want to keep you and all the offers you got. And I think, as Val says, it's great to hear how you landed in project controls because everyone has their own story. But I'm quite intrigued because, as Val says, you don't get a lot of people that stay with a company as long as you have any longer. I remember when I first came to the UK, I was working with folks that were nearing retirement and they were apprentices at the engineering company I was working at. They were literally lifers. What has, I guess, kept you interested in a career at one company? And what do you think you potentially missed out? What was the potential opportunity cost of not moving?
So I've stayed with them because we're a consultancy and I get to go and work on amazing projects and programs. Always been really good opportunities for me there. But also, when I came back to the UK, I realized they didn't actually have a project controls capability in the UK. And so I made it my mission to build that in Faithful and Gould. And I spoke to a lot of people. I presented to many people. I was like a dog with a bone, let's say, and eventually started getting backing and started getting traction, and basically built the project controls business in Faithful and Gould in the UK. So that kept me interested. I think I am a bit of a try to break boundaries a little bit kind of person, but only because I was passionate about it and I knew that there was a really big opportunity there that we were missing out on as a business. I mean, I saw that because they found it hard to place me in the UK when I came back, right? They didn't really understand what project controls was, and I could see the opportunity there for us as a business to give that whole delivery to clients. So that's part of it. And the other part of it is, being a woman, I was going on maternity leave. There was a few times where I almost left, and one of them was I was going to go on maternity leave, and to be honest, this is a true story. When I went and told my boss that I was pregnant, he went, "Oh, I never had that before," because there was no women in the business, right? He goes, "Great, let's look up what we do on this one." So there you go, breaking boundaries again. But the support I got was amazing, and I was already being put forward for a promotion before before I was announced I was pregnant, and then they brought that forward so I could do it before I went on maternity leave, which I thought was really, it was really progressive. And then when I came back, I was like, okay, I don't want to come back full time. And I was like, they're never going to go for this. I'm going to ask them for 3 days. I don't think I've ever told the company this, but I bet they'll agree to 4. So I went in, did the negotiation. They went, yeah, let's try 3 days. Let's see how it goes. I can't see the clients are going to go for it, but let's see how it goes. And, we made it work, and I made it work for 18 years.
Wow.
I've had 3 kids. I've still kept progressing through the business. I still have interesting opportunities for, not just working on projects and programs, but, working on our digital solutions at AtkinsRéalis, working with getting apprentices into the business, working with getting grads in, getting the right training for everyone. And, at the moment, really driving that controls and skills authority to help people be recognised in the industry and stuff. So there's just so much to go at in the business. Of course I've looked elsewhere. Of course I've contemplated leaving. But to be honest, there's never really been a point in time where I've gone, right, that's it. I've just had enough. I just need to go now. It's kept me going all this time. And then when there has been those moments, they've gone, don't do that.
No, it sounds absolutely amazing. But I know one thing that you're also quite passionate about, and you briefly touched on it there in your story, is being a woman in this industry. in this profession. And I know both you and I are fellows of the Controls and Skills Authority. So, shout out to CASA. And I know, Val, you in talks with them on doing something on that side of the pond. And I know you're also part of, is it the Women Community of Practice or something like that within CASA?
Yeah.
How
Yes.
has the landscape changed, I guess, and is there anything more to do in our profession?
Gosh, it's changed an awful lot. I probably don't need to tell you that, but when I was first on site, it used to be the page 3 model calendars everywhere. I used to get comments on the clothes I wore all the time. Honestly, I remember interviewing someone. I was the main interviewer. They called me love, and they could not look me in the eye to give me an answer. They always looked at the second person in the interview who wasn't really that engaged. They were sat in the desk because you needed 2 people in the room. But I was like, I just couldn't believe it. So time has moved on a little bit. I haven't been called love for quite a while. Have been called love, but just those sort of things are just. But at the time, I know this sounds crazy. It was just the way it was, right? And you just kind of got on with it. And for me, I was just like, well, I've chosen to be this industry. I knew what I was coming up against, and I just have to get on with it, right? And so, so it's. And I remember when women in construction became a thing, I was like, why do we need this? If you want to come in construction, just come, right? But then I started to realize that not everyone's got the same mindset as me. And actually, it makes a massive difference having diversity in any profession, any business. So yeah, I've seen a lot of change, a lot of positive change. And there's absolutely still so much more to do. I think that there's very many women that do leave the industry. I think that
Why is that? Sorry if I jump in there. What are the reasons women leave?
I think that some women don't get the career progression that they want. It's difficult. I think some women take time out and have their children, become stay-at-home mums. I chose not to do that, but I was very lucky I could have the part-time working. That was perfect for me. And I think that there's also a piece where you just can't take it anymore. I think there's a point where you just go, oh, I'm sick of fighting, or I'm sick of being told that I'm not ready for the next stage, or being not supported. And I think, that's another thing AtkinsRéalis are really good at, is that they really do try and get women into, if they feel like they're lacking any sort of the skills, they support you along that journey. And I'm not saying it's perfect. No company's perfect. We've still got a lot to learn as well. But, our equality, diversity and inclusion, or actually it's called Everyone Belongs now. It's made a massive difference in the business. And there's also when you get later on in life, I'm going to say the menopause word here, right? It's women lose their confidence when they get later on in life, and the support that the business is giving at that stage in careers as well at the moment is phenomenal. And it still needs a lot more work on it, but there's a whole lot of stuff that we have to deal with as women. We're usually the main carers for both the children and the parents. And it's tough. It's tough to juggle it all. It's not an easy one. So
yeah. And do you so just if I replay that back, you think we have come a long way, but there is still more to do, and it's one of the reasons I think it's good to talk about.
Yeah.
And I guess through that lens, you bring in, DE and I as well. It's not just, the gender or sex that you are. It's the religion, the culture, the nationalities, all sorts of things. Val and I have always been advocates of diversity of thought, right? And equal opportunity, and it's good to hear. And we haven't actually unpacked that topic in a while, Val. And I'll bring you into this because I know you have also got your views on it, because I think the listeners, it's refreshing to hear these things after talking about AI for the past 18 months, that people are still part of delivering projects, whether we like it or not. And we might talk about the debate that you had as well, Lisa, on that. But yeah, Val, did you want to come in there? Because I know you always have some insights, and we haven't spoken about this in a while.
No, it's good. It's really good to hear from someone else, Lisa, about their experience, particularly in the older days. I mean, I've seen it as well. I kind of was a part of that process, even though I wasn't really leading it. I could see senior management, how they talk to women in the project control space or the project management space. And it definitely has, I've seen the same thing. It's changed over the years. People become aware of what they're doing and what they're saying and how they're approaching people. And yeah, there's definitely been positives. And it's hard to count positives these days because it seems everything's so negative. It gets pushed out there, right? Especially for young aspiring people to come into our business. I say usually to the young people that start in our line of work, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's a very difficult sport, and it's a craft that you have to earn under pressure. It's not something that you get a certificate or a PMP or even a fellowship of CASA, which I did get the other day, Dale, and Lisa. So I am part of your special group. So,
welcome to the club.
So the three of us are kindred now. But look, if I go back to when I was really young, the best times were the hard times because the relationships, the friendships you forged, Dale and I included, and it's great to hear that there is more observation or awareness around what catering for women and their needs, because they have the lion's share even at home, and it's not always represented that way, which is good. It brings me to this really important word, resilience, which I use a lot when I talk about work. And it sounds like you're very resilient, Lisa, even in times of change and pressure and all of that. What's your takeaway? I mean, you've got such a long-standing career doing all sorts around the world. How do you maintain resilience, and what would you say to listeners who are maybe just starting out in their career or early on in their career and they're finding it really hard to adapt?
So I guess this is easy for me to say, but stick with it, right? Because it'd be really easy to just walk away. Look, I've stuck with 25 years in AtkinsRéalis, right? And it's not always been smooth. And so, put yourself into those positions that you are uncomfortable with. Ask the questions. I was talking to someone today. I was like, look, I still ask the stupid questions. I'm still there going, I'm like a dog with a bone, as I said earlier. I was like, I don't understand what you're trying to tell me here. Keep going. You've got to keep telling me I don't understand. Tell me it in a different way. I don't understand. And because we're all still learning, right? And it doesn't matter how senior the person is that you're talking to or how junior the person is that you're talking to. You've all got knowledge, and don't assume that other people know that knowledge, no matter what stage of your career you are. Whether you're very young or whether you're very experienced, don't assume people know that knowledge. And, I think some of the biggest, learning curves I had, like when I went to America, when I thought, I was the big I am. I could do project controls. I got to go out on my own away from this big, massive company that I'd been working for, and landed on site in the middle of Phoenix. And they went, okay, so we're going to build a clean room. I was like, oh, what's a clean room? And they'd never used project controls before. So I was like, oh, what? And I've got to teach all these people what these big burly, like they were literally cowboys because it was in the desert. They had cowboy hard hats and belt buckles. I had to go and teach them how you do planning and how you link it to the cost and how you need to control your schedules and not just take the money and do what you think is right for the project, but really, is it delivering the benefits and the outcomes that the company needs? So. Yeah, I mean, taking those opportunities. I'm not saying everyone needs to go and work in America or whatever, but, backing yourself, if you like, backing yourself that you could go and do that. What's the worst can happen? You could fail, but you'll learn from it. So it's, and I didn't fail, by the way. I had those cowboys doing project controls before I left.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one, because looking back on maybe Dale and I's career as well, I actually found that we do this naturally in controls. We chunk down problems. It's controlling the uncontrollable. It's turning chaos into order. All of that great stuff. But usually when it comes down to individuals and resilience, it's down to daily habits, the things, the mantras, the traditions, the things they do to keep themselves aligned to their careers. You obviously have a way to manage that pressure, the stress, the kids, life in general, as well as a high performer in work. What's your daily habits, Lisa? If we'll break that down, what are the things that you bring to the day to make sure you set up for success?
As you can probably tell on this podcast, I don't take anything too seriously. I do like to have a look at the light side of life as much as I can. So that is part of my coping, and I really do think I should probably rein that in a little bit sometimes. But but I do always, I sit. There are times I'm like, oh God, I've just got so much on my plate, but I just sit there and go, okay, what must I do today? I do the must do, could do, should do, could do. I do that. I don't do it every day. I'm not going to say I'm like a creature of a habit in that way, but I look at what's important to get my job delivered and what's important to me as well as an individual. And I do mentor quite a few people, and I always say to them, you need to set some time for yourself as well. So, I make sure I go to the gym or a run, or, if I want to do those things, I make sure that is built into my day, because I think it's really important. If I don't do it, I know that I'm on a hiding to nowhere, because if I just sit at my desk all day, it's just not me. It doesn't work for me. And I think that, that prioritization piece is really important. And, I have to be a little bit organized, although people in project control, obviously you have to be a little bit organized, but I think people see me as sometimes a little bit chaotic, but I have to plan my whole week with the kids. I'm like, right, okay, what we're doing all week, got to organize them. My husband's away a lot. He's, so it's a lot of it's down to me. So the work and the life balance is huge. And so I do write lots of lists. I'm going to say I do the lists. I tick them off. I love that, to be able to tick off something off my list. But I also, as I say, life is for living, and I do kind of try and bring that lightness to work and delivery.
That's lovely. I find, and this is probably where your mentoring piece comes in, that you need to be an interesting person is kind of my advice. Like, you can't just do work, and you've got to have aspirations, and you've got to try things out there in the world. You got to travel. Because I found a lot of people, they will get, especially high achievers or high performers, they will get stuck in and just work like dogs, from the morning to the end. I've been stuck in that route before, but I found that if you've got outlets, you're a better balanced individual, and you have stories to bring where you can cross-mouse through a bit of coaching, and you can transfer that knowledge or use that as an analogy in work. That's helpful in your communication style, getting people to understand project controls. If you're trying to tell cowboys how to do planning, that's great. One of the things that I was going to ask earlier, but I'll ask now because Dale probably be interested as well. What's one of the worst moments, or one of the best moments in your career that you can remember? That's like a sticking point, or it's there as a reminder, and you share with your mentees.
See, this is my continual optimism. There must be a bad moment. There must be a worse moment. It must be a worse moment. No, I don't. To be fair, actually, I didn't get the promotion that I went for, right? And everyone was like, I kind of almost didn't want to go for it, but everyone was like, go for it, Lisa, go for it, Lisa. You should do this. You definitely deserve it. And then I went in there and I didn't get it, and I was just, that was a really a really low point in my career. But, I picked myself up. I did challenge as to why I didn't get it, obviously, because I was perfect. No, just joking. But, I needed to understand why I didn't get it. I went for it again and got it, a year later. So that was a pretty tough moment in my life. In my career, I should say, not my life. And then highlights. There's been a lot of highlights, I have to say. Obviously, it was winning Global Consultancy of the Year last year for AtkinsRéalis. If you think about the journey that I've been on, the first person. I'm not saying I did it all on my own. Wow, we've got some amazing people I work with now, and A lot of people say it's not the company you work for, it's the people you work with, and it's absolutely true for me at the moment. They're just, there's some amazing people in the business. But anyway, so that's probably one of the highlights of my career. But also, like, seeing the project controls business grow has been a real, really proud of that. But also going to America and teaching cowboys how to do project controls, it was great.
I love that.
There's just so many highlights in my career, to be fair.
No, that's good. That's really useful. I think was, as well as resilience, the skills that we kind of garner over time, we probably don't realize that we're developing them until we look back. And because you mentor others and you do a lot of training and you're setting up people for the first time, what would you say are the 3 top skills that people should work on, that you've worked on, that's helped your success in your career?
I think believing in yourself is really important. And, that going back to that, when I didn't get the promotion is, I kind of went in there thinking, oh God, what am I doing here? Because everyone else told me I should go for it. And I should have just believed in myself, right? And I went back a year later, I really did believe in myself. So I think that's one of the key things I learned throughout my career. I think the other thing is to look for those mentors and sponsors that are really going to help you in your career. And, I feel like back in my day, I didn't officially have a mentor or a sponsor, but when I was looking back, when I was thinking about today and the chat that we were going to have, I was thinking, I found those people that firmly believed in me and would sponsor me, not physically sponsor me, but you could see that they were a supporter of you, and they helped you get to, or helped me get to where I got to in my career. And I think the power of mentoring. I've had some really great mentors. I do need to find a new one at the moment. Anyone out there want to come and mentor me? That would be great. I think that's probably the second thing. And the third thing would be to put yourself into those uncomfortable and challenging positions. Don't think, oh, I can't do this. Think, I could probably do this. Let's give this a go, and and as I said before, reaching out to people will support you. There may be some idiots that don't, but bypass them, get to the next person. It's kind of, I think there's a lot to be said to that. But I think that my key thing is believing in yourself. And maybe I know that a lot of people probably already do, but that was a big lesson for me.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Lisa, in terms of the self-belief. It starts all from there, right? If you don't have self-belief, how do you expect anyone else to believe in you? And it's easier said than done, but I always go back, well, where do you get that self-belief from? And for me, it always goes back to a couple of things, is the people you surround yourself with and the books you read. And you gain confidence. You don't gain confidence overnight. You gain confidence little by little. I mean, Val always brings up, this old sort of army saying, I think it's the army saying, when you wake up, you make your bed. It's your first victory, right? You're building confidence from the get-go, from the morning. We've previously spoken about eat that frog and going, and what's the biggest thing you have to do for the day? Go and do that thing first, right? You achieve that, and then everything else becomes easier. So you build confidence, you build self-belief, and as you accomplish things, little things, you start building that as well. But the thing that resonated with me there as well is the mentoring and the coaching. It's one of the reasons Val and I started this podcast, is that we worked together. When we did work together, we were the youngest in the boardroom by over 10 years. And we compared each other's careers, and we were very lucky to have really good people around us, believed in us, gave us opportunities, backed us, supported us. And I think that's rare. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're in the position, if you're a Lisa Silander of the world, there's others out there that could do with your support. Go and reach out and grab that youngster coming in and going, you can do this. If you believe in yourself, I believe in you. It goes a long way. It goes a very, very long way. But yeah, grabbing those opportunities and that grit and that determination, I think is key as well. But look, I wanted to also ask you more on the technical side in terms of what has changed in project controls over the years as well, because there's probably not much that you haven't seen in your career when it comes to project controls. The tools, the techniques, the types of setups, the way organizations view controls as a profession, and perhaps where it's heading as well. Care to share what you've seen over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I can reflect on when I first, I'm this old, when I first joined my first job, I had to share a computer. So it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that we didn't have a computer, but I had to share a computer. And obviously there's fax machines and or telephones that used to pick up, all those sort of things. But even back then, I still did my little network diagrams for some parts of my schedule. It's kind of, and what I can't believe, by the way, is P6 is pretty much still the same as it was then, right?
100%.
It needs to move on, man. Maybe it was P3.
P3,
anyway,
yeah.
P3. Was it? No, it was before that even. I'm that old.
Short track?
But yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Short track was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, obviously the technology has advanced. But as you said before, that disjointed, like the cost people sat over here, the schedule sat over here. And actually in Foster with it, they did look at, hold on, our cost can't finish after the schedule, or our schedule can't finish after the cost. So they were kind of aligned. I do actually think that was a really good foundation to my career, actually, the oil and gas industry, because they were one of the first to adopt project controls. But yeah, so I think that when you stop and look at it, I'm like, we used spreadsheets. Okay, it was Lotus 1, 2, 3. We used P6. Not a lot's changed, right? No, but joking aside, I am trying to think of what has changed. No, but I think joking aside is that there's a lot changed in not just the tools and technology. I'm really excited to see what we can do with machine learning and in project controls. And oh my God, getting data that everybody believes and being able to make key decisions on, and not having to have the argument about the data, but about what it's telling us. We're getting there because we're getting rid of unconscious bias through machine learning, and the probabilistic kind of calculations that you can do these days. I think that there's still a lot to be said for the old going into a room, as I went back at the beginning of my career, and bringing everyone into the room to bring the hearts and minds in how we're going to deliver that project, right? And if you have to, put Post-its on a wall. I'm sorry, Post-its. But we could do a whiteboard, it's fine. I think there's still a lot to be said around that, because I think if we move completely to digital, we move that human factor away. Nobody, that's what I was talking about the other week, but nobody is held accountable. People think it's not their data, so it's okay, but whatever it's telling us doesn't matter. So I think that although we have moved on, I think that we still need to use some of the old ways. This is my old-fashioned little way, I guess. But I think that we've got to embrace technology more. We're so slow at embracing technology. And come on, software engineers, move on from P6. Come on, come on. There's got to be something better out there. Sorry, P6 is very good. We all use it a lot. Maybe we should take that out.
No, be honest, Lisa. Be honest.
Yeah. I actually love leaving that in. A little birdie told me, and maybe we should get someone from Oracle on the podcast to confirm or deny that P6 support is being discontinued. So there's a bombshell, potentially.
Wow.
So
did they ever support us, really? I mean, did they ever? Let's be honest. They didn't really. It was probably going to an empty email box anyway. So I don't think I've ever been supported by Oracle when I've been asking, hey, what's wrong with your thing? It doesn't work. No, it's fine. Bollocks.
There we go. There's the provocative, spicy bit, Lisa, that Val was promising.
Come on,
Oracle. No, Yeah, we've been inviting Oracle to come on and talk about P6 since we started the podcast, but no one wants to come on for some strange reason.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring them up there, but what I was going to say is, you know, I when you talk, yeah, trying to deflect that P6 will never speak to me again. Oracle will never speak to me again. Sorry, Oracle. But you know, what drives me a little bit mad, and we still do it, is that we have this digital information at our fingertips, but I still have to download the stuff into PDF or a PowerPoint presentation. I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? But yeah, I think, you know, we're getting there, but it's going to take more hearts and minds, and I think it's a behavioural thing, right? It's not just getting the technology to develop. We've got to bring everyone on that journey, and yeah, I think we've got a far way to go.
In your view, will the role of the project controls professional change?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I hope so. I wouldn't want us to be sat. Well, I won't be sat here in 30 years, but I wouldn't want to be sat here like 10 years time and still be using Excel and having arguments about whether the data's right. So, you know, for me, the digital, machine learning, AI, all that stuff needs to take away that uncertainty of data, or at least give us a range of data that, you know, is usable. You know, it's got to get rid of the unconscious bias. So I think that has gone to an extent, but you know, that 99% complete forever. You know, there's ways you can use previous data, you know, machine learning now to say, yeah, it's not 99% complete, is it? Come on, let's move on from there. But I think it will change. It has, but it's been so slow, the change. When I reflect back on where we've been and where we are now, there's still a long way to go, isn't there? I think we're there. I think we're close. But it's a bit like driverless cars, right? They've been around for years, but nobody's used them until recently. They've been around, what, 30 years, apparently? Somebody told me. Better check that fact. But nobody trusted them to use them. Nobody wanted to take accountability of what would happen if somebody wasn't driving it. And I think that we're at that stage at the moment in project controls.
That's a really good assessment, Lisa, because I came to the same conclusion that the last barrier is trust. And so think of them like barricades, right? The resistance to move. And you're seeing each barricade, as things advance in tech, it gets easier and easier, right? The barrier to entry is easier. And the last hurdle is that one, I believe, personally, for technology. The last hurdle is if you could put anything together and you could trust it 100%, then I think Oracle should be really worried, because the technology out there now will be in the hands of the professional or the craftsman, you know, so they don't necessarily need to go to a big enterprise to build a schedule or understand a schedule or train themselves on the schedule or manage cost or any of those kinds of things. There's a self-service piece that I really love about this new tech, this machine learning tech, is that anybody in the world, a bit like what happens to music and then that industry, like anyone in the world can create something, develop it to its full potential, and then share it with his friends or share it with a company or share it with their local community. So I do think there is something in there. I don't know what that trust factor looks like from a success criteria perspective, because the project controls of me says, well, what is it specifically about trust? And people would just say it's a feeling almost. It's not necessarily something that can be reassured by data. It's like you have to feel like you can trust it. You know, I remember when I first got my motorbike license, it's the most scariest thing in the world, riding a motorbike. Well, it was until I got too excited about it. But you've got to trust your own capability. So there's a factor of belief in there, isn't there, Lisa? And then belief helps you then manage the monster that is always going to be dangerous, right? AI and machine learning will always be dangerous in the wrong hands. But with a practitioner like yourself, Lisa, it could open doors for all sorts of things. And I think that's where we got to get to. We've got to get people like yourself and other champions in the industry to say, that's enough P6, we'll take it from here. Is that your view as well, Dale? We'll get you in on this conversation, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's going to be, well, a couple of things. I was day of recording today. I was at the EVA conference. Shout out to Steve Wake. Steve's been on the podcast plenty of times before.
Hey, Steve.
And one of the conversations was around, as technology comes in, one of the presenters, put forward that the value of the human will actually go to assuring the outcomes and, picking up when AI is wrong. And we've obviously discussed those views on this podcast with various guests along the past 18, 24 months or so. But there's an argument to say that, well, actually, eventually, well, two things on that. One, you won't start getting enough people to validate whether the AI is wrong or not, because you won't get people graduating from the ground up, understanding, putting together project schedules and cost budgets and analyzing them. And so being able to identify where those nuances are that it just doesn't look or feel right. Because that feeling we develop as experienced professionals is built up over years of being in the data, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not in the data anymore, then you may not actually have that gut feel because you haven't been in the detail. And so the argument then becomes is actually, well, AI can tell when AI is wrong because you'll have an AI agent that analyzes something that the other AI agent has analyzed. And so I offered up that I think that whilst if you then take AI and robotics and call it technology, because you're taking AI into the physical world when you put it in with robotics, there's not much that technology can't do in terms of jobs and things. The real question is, should it? And what is the real value add if it does? And I think for me, what it comes down to is that we'll probably end up in, and I think I might have said this on the last episode or 2 episodes ago, so apologies, folks, but we'll probably end up, and I'm probably completely wrong because no one really knows what's going to happen in the future with jobs, but we'll probably end up somewhere like where, today people opt for organic food, where we'll opt for human-made, so human-made services, human-made products. I want a human to do the schedule. I want a human to analyze that cost for me. And that might potentially be an area where, we will still have expertise. And maybe it's a coexistence in going for, if we take the 80-20 rule perhaps, and saying that actually 80% of projects can be done by machines, that's fine because they step and repeat. But those really complex ones, those actually where we want humans, because actually we enjoy humans being on those, even though machines might be faster, but it'd still be assisted by a machine. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts, Lisa. I'm probably totally wrong. What do you think?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that, as I argued the other week, I don't think that the human element will ever go away. I might be watching this in a few years' time going, what was I talking about? But I think that, in order for a project or a program to get delivered, surely we've got to have that human interaction. It's like I said, who's going to decide we need a new swimming pool, right? To start with, and what that new swimming pool is going to look like. Is AI going to say, oh, what you really want is this? But other people will be like, well, no, what I really want is this. And so I feel like there's definitely a massive adoption of technology that is needed in project controls, but I still feel that gut feeling has to still be there. I don't know, but maybe the AI machines will persuade us differently as we move forward. So, but yeah, I think, but I do think it's a real worry that we'll lose those old skills. But then I contemplate things like, so my dad, right, he was a sign writer, so he used to paint with his hand. He used to paintbrush, mark it all out, paintbrush it all himself. And he had his own business, and computers started coming in and they could do vinyl instead of doing hand painting. He spent a fortune on a new computer. I remember my mum going mad, but his business was thriving because he just embraced technology and he learned new skills. And I think that's all how that's how things have progressed through time. And I think that's how project controls will progress through time. That's how every profession will continue to progress through time. And let's hope it doesn't take everybody's jobs. But I do think as humans, we need to make sure that the next generation have got some of that knowledge to keep on going. And I think, the likes of the APM and the CASA and the what they call the AACE in America, I think that they've got a place in doing that, in having that kind of human conscience and in bringing in digital, I would say. That's my thoughts anyway.
No, absolutely. I think everyone really has a part to play. We're in the profession. You're in the profession if you're listening to this, and you're the master of your own destiny. If you want to get involved, we're all fellows of the Controls and Skills Authority. Get in touch with us. There's others out there. APM, PMI, AACE, there's loads, get involved, be part of the conversation. Don't just be a bystander and, just accept what's going to happen, and upskill yourself and understand what's going on. I mean, listening to us is fantastic. You've done one step in the right direction, but there's so much more out there as well. Just a comment on what you're saying there. I think it's really, really fascinating and interesting. And the Controls and Skills Authority conference coming up next month. Mm-hmm. We've actually got Lawrence and Yvette talking on behalf of MOVAR around how AI might actually bring a project controller and project manager closer. And I won't spoil their thunder, but it's an interesting talk and it's a thought experiment. So yeah, if you're interested to see what they're going to talk about, I'd encourage you to come along. Lisa and I will be there. You can meet Lisa in the flesh as well. But look, I know we're heading towards the end of the pod, Lisa, and you've been fantastic. But Val, do you have any more for Lisa before we let it go?
No, at least only really just a comment and observation. I think the risk with new tech and bringing people into the fold is time under tension. I think the best things are made in pressure, not when you're comfortable. Easy times do not make solid practitioners. And the people that have worked on the hardest projects tend to be the most skillful, the most resilient, and they're generally over-optimistic. There's something you said before about being, having humor in your life and not taking things too seriously. Is something that Dale and I do anyway, because we're South African and Australian, so we don't know any better, but we have to, right? It's a coping mechanism to have humor in your life. So don't take yourself too seriously. You can still have a serious career, but have fun doing it. I think that's why you've not survived, but thrived for so long in your career, Lisa. The other thing I'd say just to the people out there, I think we'll always have a human in the loop at some degree, at some level, in some form. We were trying to work out the new naming convention for what you would call assurance, and we just called it Hulu. Some human in the loop sitting somewhere, whether it's remote or not, I have no idea. I mean, as we were speaking, someone sent me on a WhatsApp some baggage handlers that are robots and they're falling over each other. I'm like,
I saw that,
yeah. We got time, guys. We've got time. Robots aren't taking our jobs yet. But I mean, I think the other common thread between the three of us is we've been lifelong learners, and your dad's story is a classic because I've got a lot of respect for artists and yeah, sign writing is a skill. I mean, to watch a sign writer with the skill of a hand, free-handing, they paint phenomenally. I think I just follow some on TikTok just because they're just awesome to watch. It's almost like meditation sometimes. I'm sure it is for you, Lisa.
Yeah.
But then to embrace technology, that's a great story for anyone listening that, technology doesn't have to be an enemy. Primavera does. And as long as we're focusing on what's valuable to the practitioner, right, then, something will rise to the top. And I appreciate your time today, Lisa.
Yeah, no worries. Can I get some of those neon lights? Is that?
You know what I will do when I see you? I've got key rings that came with, and I'll give you a key ring. How's that?
Thanks so much.
Score.
But yeah, it's been an absolute privilege and pleasure to have you on. I know I've been trying to get you on for a while, Lisa, to share your views. So thank you so much for coming on. Before we let you go, any final thoughts from yourself?
No, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I'm just reflecting on the beginning of the conversation where you said it's nice to have something that's not about AI, but we went down that route anyway. Yeah. But I think I honestly, probably one of the things I didn't say that I'd like to say is that I think that it's a fascinating career. Obviously, I've been in it for a long, long time. And I think there's still a lot more to come for it, whether it's AI, machine learning, or what. But I think, delivering projects, delivering mega projects and being part of that, I just think it's a really exciting place to be. So come join us if you haven't.
Come and join us. Come and join the party. We're having lots and lots of fun.
Yeah.
So, folks, there it is. End of another episode 217. We're ticking them off, but another fantastic one. Remember, if you like what you've heard, please do help us pay it forward and share a link to this episode on your favorite social media. Once again, a massive thank you to our guest, Lisa Silander, and thank you all for listening. Until next time, we say stay safe, be disruptive, and have fun doing it. From me and Val, it's bye for now.